And it's Dan and James talking about the
Talking about the
Villa
Villa
games.
games.
And we're back, everybody, for a normal AVFC Faithful podcast post-match reaction. Less live streams, less technical hiccups, maybe, James. But we're back. Some of us have had a lovely birthday weekend away. How was it?
Oh, it's lovely, thanks. I couldn't get a stream for the game at the time. I was barbecuing outside of a little bar outside of a cottage, so it was
Tough
it was
life,
still
huh?
a lovely little occasion. But I was a bit disappointed not to watch the game at the same time still. But looking back, my birthday week was 9 points in 3 games. So, you know, we take that all day
Ridiculous.
long.
I mean, I'm lucky enough that my birthday doesn't fall within a football season, so it can never be ruined or made up by football. Blessing
Yeah.
in disguise, I reckon, that one. But I mean, of all the games to not get a stream for, that game is the one to miss out on. Because I think if it wasn't for me, I mean, I spent my game also blind testing random IPAs from hot cross bun to pina colada flavor. So there's certain ways we get through Villa games, either by not watching them or watching them. But
Yeah.
that's got to be, it was a game that I'll happily not watch again. Put it that way. Not for lack of trying, just it was a simple win.
Yeah, well, it's a game that I will actually be going to watch because you know me, I don't like to miss out on something. I haven't watched it yet because I've been busy over the past few days, obviously. But yeah, it sounded at the time from when I was keeping up with it that it was a bit slow, a bit lethargic. But I think that was expected because it was the third game in 7 days. A lot of it comes down to energy conservation. I think we said that against Leicester as well. It is what it is. It's something that we're going to have to get used to if we do get Europe, because obviously, I mean, we will have a bigger squad, you'd imagine, but the players will have to get used to that. But yeah, it was just about breaking down a team that's scrapping for any sort of point. They were always going to sit back and try and frustrate us, and it sounded like they really did a good job of that in the first half. And then John Joe Shelby pulled on a claret and blue shirt and handed it straight to Bertrand Traore, and he did the business again for the second time in a week. So I think from that point, I mean, even at half time, I tweeted, I wasn't watching, and maybe that's why I was so calm, but I was convinced that we would still come out of that with the win because that's what we do at the moment, and it turned out to be true. And the second goal by Watkins was absolutely beautiful goal. Honestly, that the composure to do that was insane. You could see it meant a lot to him to get another goal again right at the death. So, yeah, another brilliant 3 points.
Yeah, but people were chatting about that goal and they were like, "Oh, Ollie Watkins celebrating like that against Forest." I don't think they quite understand the feeling it takes when you watch a game like that. Probably even also when you're playing in a game like that. And it is that dry and you're winning 1-0, you've got to see it out. But to score that right at the death, a brilliant finish, at 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday, it basically cements us as having a perfect start to the end of the season. And obviously, what's it, 7 games unbeaten now?
Yeah.
It wasn't more so I've scored against Forest. It's more so that I'm scoring again and I can't stop. The way he takes that goal is outrageous.
Yeah.
Look, don't worry. Let me preface this. He is not him, but the only person I see take finishes that way is Lionel Messi. Just a little delicate chip. Now, of course,
Yeah.
he's not him, but it's a Messi-esque finish in that he just takes that time and just goes, I'll just dink it over him. And what was it? 6 months ago, we were all saying Ollie Watkins has not got the finishing capabilities of being a top striker in the league. A lot of us were saying that. I, for one, was saying that. I'm more than happy to go out and say I was wrong in saying that he had issues. And I think it's clear to see there's a striker. You rely heavily on confidence, and that takes you
Yeah.
so far because I'm certain 6 months ago, Steven Gerrard, you wouldn't see him even try that. He probably would have taken it first time when he got on the edge of the box before laying it off to Ramsey on the left, I believe it was. Was it Ramsey?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was mesmerised by it. I didn't care what else was going on at the time. But it was another game where we squandered a couple of other chances as well. There were other times we could have scored a couple of moves that didn't quite come off the way it was. And Forest did set out to just take a point. All they needed was a point from that game, really. It was for them, it was 1 point drop, not 3 points dropped. And for us, it would have been 2 points dropped, not a point earned. So it was clear who the emphasis was on to win that game and
Yeah.
to know that we can take a game where 45 minutes of it is pretty dross, not in terms of ability wise, just it's not a good game of football. to then come out straight away second half, take the chance that gets gifted to you, albeit by Lord Voldemort himself. You know, you've got to take those chances, and that's how you grow as a team. And it was a Newcastle fan I replied to, because he went, it's funny how they keep getting gifted chances. Like, it's almost as if you're a good football team, you press a team into making errors.
Yeah.
Mendy
Yeah,
made
yeah.
the error that gave it to Traore for the screamer against Leicester. And again, Traore just being there and John Joe Shelby being John Joe Shelby causes that error to happen. And that's what good teams do, is they find ways of winning and scoring that originally wouldn't come across. For Forest aren't going to get that against us now, because we're too on form for that. And I think that's
Yeah.
the beauty of it at the moment with us.
Yeah, well, you create your own look, don't you? I mean, the move to get in behind was nice in the first place. You know, the pass to Traore, I think, was it from Ashley Young? Lovely ball to set him free, and it was a decent ball across, a bit too close to the keeper, but he found space again after he played the ball in, and then obviously it dropped to him. But yeah, it's about just keeping that momentum going, and to touch on Ollie Watkins again, yeah, that he was so happy to score again, because if you keep that run going, you're confident you're going to score in every game. You know, if you don't score in a game, you probably go into the next one thinking, you know, I've got to score again, and maybe that weighs on you more. You know, that the pressures in the highest level of football are massive, and we know it's massive, but we don't understand how massive it is. We're not in that situation, so I think it was important that we got another clean sheet, another win, and another goal for Ollie, because it's that sort of momentum that can kick you into that European contention come the end of the season. And it will be interesting now that we've had a week to prepare for a game instead of like a few days like the last few. Be interesting to see what we come up with against a really tough side now.
Yeah, we were chatting about it. Obviously, today we recorded a video with John McKenzie from Tifo, and he was mentioning about the right-hand side. And obviously, as was clearly shown, Bailey was not doing enough in that game, thus leading to Traore coming on. Be interesting to see against Newcastle if that changes again, if we're going to start with Bailey, or if we're going to have John McGinn out there possibly. I'm still not sure what's going on with Kamara. I believe he might be out again for Newcastle. I believe it's flared back up, the ankle injury, sort of rushed back in, which is a shame. But I mean, I'm thoroughly enjoying the fact that I've managed to watch it and not be like, we're really missing him. Because that was the big worry, I think, from all of us, was that's going to create a massive gap and a massive hole in the midfield. And my only issue is, if we play John McGinn in the middle, he is susceptible to making the tiny errors that do cost us against quality opposition. And made no mistake, as much as we do have a bit of banter between us, Newcastle are probably the best opposition we've had for the past few games and coming up. But I want to touch on exactly what you tweeted today, and that is people disparaging the games we've played. Now, albeit they are against teams mostly below us. Oh, well, definitely they all are now.
Yeah.
They were teams that were fighting, and they were teams that were desperate. And Chelsea again proved themselves on that game that they were no pushovers. They were just a team in disarray, and we capitalized on that with the chances that they led us to have. But you've got to win the game still. And out of all of those games, we've drawn, is it two? Two draws?
In the last 7, we've only drawn 1. We've won 6 and drawn 1.
Right, yeah, because we lost against whatever happens. We lost against Arsenal, didn't we?
Arsenal, City, and Leicester was their 3-game losing streak, and then we've won 6 and drawn 1 since then. So,
and that's sort of the key elements of it, isn't it? Is if you're, it's not drawing the games, it's not sort of doing an invincible run where you play for the draws to keep the streak going. It's playing to win, and that's what we're doing. And we look like a team that's hungry, and we're not quite sure what we're hungry for, because there's not been an outline at the start. Emery never said when he came in we're aiming for Europe at the end of the season. It was always talk of top half and finishing top half, and I think that's the key point, isn't it? We want to chat about the fact that we want progress, but we don't need to be. We were always talking about Europe for the past year, obviously, and I think I might have said to someone at the start of this year that we will finish Europe. Now, I think it still counts as me being right, despite the fact I was judging a completely different manager and what feels like a different team. I still think I'm right if we do finish in Europe.
You can still claim it.
Wow. Yeah. I'm still technically right, aren't I, if it happens?
Oh, yeah. So. It happened, and maybe it was just subconsciously you knew that fraud was getting sacked and we'd get someone better in. But yeah, it's still. I don't think it's still properly sunk in that we're sixth in the table. We're sixth.
No.
Like it's weird, and I know that there's teams below us with games in hand, but games in hand are games in hand. They're not points on the board yet. It's you have to have the points on the board, and that's what we've done. And whether we drop a place or two when that, if they get points back, I don't care. Like the improvement's been remarkable already, and as I was tweeting earlier, as we've said before, I wouldn't want to be too disheartened if we missed out on Europe. It obviously would be a little bit disappointing after the run we've been on, but we're ahead of schedule under Emery in my eyes. If we got Europe, and I'd still take that. You grasp it straight away because it's a big opportunity. But all of it for me was a big focus on next season, and if we get it ahead of that, just like we did with promotion to the Premier League, I'd take it all day long.
But obviously, if as mentioned, if we don't get Europe, it just makes the title charge that little bit easier for us. Not saying if we get Europe, it's not still on. It's just a little bit more difficult, isn't it? So, we can sit back and enjoy being in first from game week 1 to game week 38, can't we? Then.
Yeah. But on that the winning run that we've been on, you don't find that football works in the way that you play all these teams below you and you win 6 and draw 1. That's whatever way you pin it down as, that's good form. Even the best teams slip up sometimes. I mean, Arsenal lost to Everton. You don't make a big deal out of that. It's how you come back from bad runs. Like we did have a bad run of form against Leicester, Arsenal, and City. Even if they are the two best teams in the country, we still had to come back from poor form, and we've done that almost immaculately. Only 2 points dropped against West Ham, and that game could have technically gone either way. West Ham had big chances, but we probably should have had a penalty as well, and they probably shouldn't. So swings and roundabouts in that sense. But yeah, we have to keep this form up. If we're serious about Europe, this is the business end of the season, as everyone says, and it's where the best teams do just they keep reeling in points, whether it's deserved or not. You have to take your chances that you get. And that will be interesting to see now that we are coming up against, I think, 7 of the teams that are around or above us, and the only one that's below us are the Dingles. So we'll see what happens come Saturday, because that's a big game to start off the last 8 for us. Against Newcastle, it's one I'm excited to see, because if we win that game, I'm coming out of that thinking, who is going to stop us then? Because for me, we've got United, Liverpool, and Tottenham left of the big lot, and we've got the informed Brighton and that at the end of the season. But Newcastle to me sticks out as the biggest task because of how they play and the form they're on. It's a huge game, and the whole rivalry between the fans that partly annoys me, but partly gets me rolled up, and I think that's sort of what you want. But thinking about it, touching on it now, you would expect going into Saturday, early kickoff against Newcastle, that stadium should be at it.
Yeah.
The Villa fans will want to beat them. They'll want to batter them because of what we have to endure, and the 4-0 loss earlier in the season, which they handed us our own arses that day, and you want to get payback. So it's a huge game on Saturday.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, the rivalry, because I was one that sort of came into this when I started supporting Villa. I was quite young, and it wasn't really. I just didn't like the clubs that everyone liked because I wanted to be different. And then it got to this stage, and then I can't remember what it was, and then someone just went, we just don't like Newcastle, and I was like, why? We're like, well, we put out this bed sheet and sung about Ant and Dec crying in the stands, and it just all sort of tumbled from there. And I thought, well, at the end of the day, they're one of these clubs, right? And they're their own team in their own city, and yet boast about how big their stadium is and how many fans they get. I mean, that's like me homeschooling myself and going, I got a fucking A, mate, top of the class. Great, but what's the sample size like, lads? It's an interesting one because we got different sorts of form going into it between both teams, because Newcastle seemed to be entering a bit of a lull after the World Cup, that the draws started seeping in and they weren't scoring as many, but they weren't conceding, and now they've sort of hit back. And that game against Brentford, they shouldn't have, coming off the first half, they shouldn't have been in that game really, and then they pull out the bag and win it, and that's what comes from having a player like Isak to bring off the bench. And that's where I'm interested, is because if we're dominating the game, if we're dominating the game and not winning, and we have to make that attacking change, that's where the quality levels change in depth. And I think that's where we might, in these run of games, is find our differences between the likes of us, Liverpool, Man United, because at the end of the day, the facts are, I mean, they have got better quality and depth against us. And this is where we get to show, like we did against Tottenham, that it doesn't care what the squad is, it's whether you're set up well enough to play against them and beat them. Because I genuinely don't think that United or Liverpool match up to us tactically wise. I actually think it's only Newcastle out of those three that do. And I think it'll be the Newcastle game that will change whether we get Europe, because Brighton's games in hand, I know one of them's against City. So you're telling me that if they beat City, right, but everyone's telling me that City are winning every game of the rest of the season. So that's where the challenge comes, I think, is you have to face up against a team that are going to want to. He's never beat Unai Emery, has Eddie Howe.
Yeah.
And Newcastle have never beat an Unai Emery team. So they're going to come and want to win. They have to win because top four is still very much on for them, which means it's not going to be a closed game. A point's not enough for them against us. I really don't think that. And I think they'll know that. And that's what's going to make it such a good game. And I can only urge everyone to just pile on as much pressure onto that Newcastle team as possible, because they're going to be loud. The Geordies are going to be loud. They're going to they've obviously sold out. They're obviously going to pack it to the rafters. It's going to be noisy. But who's going to wear 4,000 Geordies when you've got 30,000 Villa fans screaming at the top of your lungs, you know? And that we've got the chance of imposing ourselves upon them. And then the way I see it is, if you do that, it can't be your fault if it goes wrong. We can't blame the atmosphere then. It's only what happens on the pitch.
Yeah.
Of course, you could say that anyway, but you just got to love Villa Park when it's bouncing, and we've really got a chance to make it that way on Saturday, I think.
Well, yeah, because I mean, we're on this run now, and we're building for Europe, and we're coming up against a really good side, a side that we don't like really off the pitch, as well as on the pitch. So you'd expect the atmosphere to be buzzing, and if we come out of that game with a win, I mean, I'd take a point. I'm not going to lie, because it's a really tough test, and you keep the momentum going. But obviously, then you followed it with Brentford, Fulham, and United. You want to keep the momentum going into those games, because they're still not easy games. I think I said to you that out of the last 8, you need to win 5 or 6, maybe even more, depending on the teams around you. So, yeah, it could be a defining moment against Newcastle, because everything that's at stake for both teams should make it a really good game. And the atmosphere is only going to help us if we can get it rocking. And I think about that 10-game winning run in the Championship, when everything came together, the stands, it was just buzzing there for that whole end of the season. I think if we can get that going again, they are the 12th man. You know, it's cliche, but it's true.
It's something I haven't seen for long enough. I haven't seen or heard, at least, just a completely dominating home atmosphere from us. And I think that might actually be the only thing I think we're missing at the moment. And it's possible. And it wasn't there on Saturday. I'll be perfectly honest with you, it wasn't the level I thought it would be. The end was, and of course it would be, because of the final goal and sealing it off and realizing what it means. And I think it didn't help that the game was the way it was, being such a cagey, boring game. It's hard to really get yourself up for that. I completely understand that. You know, it's hard to sit and watch it at home, let alone be there and enjoy every waking moment of watching it. So I understand that. It's just a case of, the only way I see it really changing is if we just put the effort in to make it change. They can't force it to happen. I don't know if Bangarang's still going on. I really hope not.
Apparently that wasn't played at the weekend. I heard from someone, so that's a step forward. I think
it really is.
When it comes to the atmosphere, like when I went against Bournemouth, I think it sticks in my mind that it got really good when we knew the points were in the bag. And I think then you can relax, and the team relaxed then as well, and they started just creating loads of chances. I think it sort of gives me the vibe that the fans that are in there, it's like watching a teacher go through a presentation, and you're so focused on it, and you're watching it unfold. Like, it is a tactical lesson every game, watching this team, and I think you're so encapsulated by that. But then when obviously you're winning, and I think the football starts to flow more, it's generally just more enjoyable anyway. And I think that's just that's the ebb and flow that we've got to go through while we're still learning and going through the first phase of this Emery era. Come next season, if we know what we're going to watch each game, I think the atmosphere will come more naturally.
Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a thing for me now, to be honest. I wanted to mention it earlier, but I've noticed myself now dipping into things I can look at a bit more tactically, looking at as many people as I can that are talking about tactics. Because when you have a manager like Emery, where it is happening in a way that isn't, you can see what's going on, but you want to see why and how it affects the game. You become sort of like, I'm sat there trying to learn it, and I love it. I'm starting to really get into the tactics side, and yeah, I think you're right. I think it does come down to it that people are more just sort of waiting for what's happening to unfold rather than to sort of push it along the line. And it's kind of good to know that we're not relying on a home atmosphere to push us forwards like a Newcastle does sometimes, where they need their home ground to be pushing them on because they're not playing so well, and that's what does it for them. And everyone raves about the St James Park atmosphere because they're the ones that push it along. Obviously, not in the seasons where they're giving away half-season tickets for free, or they've got 30,000 people leaving at half-time. We won't mention that because they're the best fans in the league. But so obviously, when we go on to things like that, and you worry about the home atmosphere being the way it is, I'm still happy with the fact that we're performing to a level that it doesn't matter. So
yeah,
it's the only game I'm worried about because it's 12:30 on a Saturday. And it's just going to be relentless going on Twitter if we lose. Like, if it does happen, I think I will just have to just log out and just leave it for about 2 to 3 working days. I think.
yeah.
I'll wait till I'm in Nice the following week and just sit there, on the beach or the Bay of Monaco, and just sit there and go, oh, we lost
Yeah,
it. What a shame! I forgot about that.
it's one of those. Like I think we discussed it before. I actually quite like the early kickoff. I don't know why. Like, 'cause if it's good weather, especially, something about it that just like I enjoy. And the last early kickoff I think was the Arsenal one, wasn't it? Which was enjoyable up to the point where it was absolutely horrific
Yeah.
because it was sickening that we conceded so late on in that way. But yeah, there's something about an early kickoff at Villa Park. Not as good as Friday night football or even
No.
Monday night football for me. Villa Park under the lights is
So
amazing.
we're ranking them now. So now we've got to rank them because now I'm thinking about it, right? So you've got Friday night,
That's
half
top.
12, 3 o'clock, half 5. We won't do Saturday night football because that's so rare that it's at like 8 o'clock. I don't know, it's only during winter, isn't
Yeah.
it? Then you got 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, or 8 o'clock on a Monday. I won't include midweeks because they're just midweeks, aren't they?
Yeah. Friday night football's the top for me because there's something about getting home from work on a Friday and then you've got Villa on the night, Villa Park under the lights. Special sort of atmosphere usually that is, especially when we play Everton, it seems, I think. But I think second, Saturday 12:30, and then Monday 8 o'clock is over Saturday 5:30 for me, just because starting the week with Villa playing is a bit of an easer into the working week for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's a good point, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Then Saturday 3 o'clock, which is probably goes against the wave of us moaning that we don't get 3 o'clock kickoffs, but I like 3 o'clock kickoffs more if I'm going to them.
Yeah.
I like that. Then Sunday's just bottom of the pile in general. I don't really like Sunday because you have to wait so long to watch them.
And it's Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm. It's not that I'm not arsed. It's just I find it harder to get so pumped for it until the game starts. Whereas at least on a Saturday, like I can get pumped for it through the day. So yeah, that's how I rank them. To be honest, Sunday's bottom of the pile for me.
Yeah, I think Sunday is spot. See, for me, it's Saturday half 12 is my top, and that's just from when I used to go, and then being able to watch the game, whatever happened, and then you've got the 3 o'clock kickoffs, and then you're either staying in Brum for the 3s and the 5s, or you listen to the 3 o'clock kickoffs. So by the time you're back in the pub for the half 5 kickoff. It's like your whole day of football then, especially if Villa win. It's just yeah, Friday night is something special. I remember I went to Man United at home Friday night football. Adnan Januzaj goal. I don't know if you remember it. Yeah, I was there in the whole end watching that. I distinctly remember that. That's like a core memory in my brain, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Same game, I think, is that Radamel Falcao came on or Bastian Schweinsteiger, one of the two.
Bastian Schweinsteiger had just joined United, I think, that season. I think
I
they won 2-0. Can't remember who
did.
scored the other goal.
I'm still. I got a feeling it's Radamel Falcao, but I might be wrong. I could be wrong, but for some reason that sticks in my head is him being on the pitch. But that could be
Yeah,
a year out or so. But yeah, I think Friday nights are pretty great. I prefer a 3 o'clock Saturday over Monday. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I think that's just the oldness in me of when I didn't really like Monday night football because I could never really go to them was my problem.
yeah,
And then and then Monday, and then I'm not massive on the 5:30 Saturdays, but I'll take them over Sundays any day.
yeah.
And that's more so because I feel like I want to watch us first. I'd watch us every day if I could, and the second I wake up, I want it to be on as soon as possible.
Yeah.
The only thing that sticks in my head with our 12 kickoffs is I just don't think we win them. I can't. I was sat there, I was thinking, when did we last win an 12 kickoff? And it doesn't stick in my head when it happened. I remember us beating Everton under Gerrard at 12:30, I believe. For some reason
That was an early off, yeah.
I've got the
Yeah.
idea of the BT cameras and him doing his little fucking smirk because all he had for himself was Everton and Man United hate me in moments of magic.
Yeah.
So
There's not many 12:30 kickoff games that we've won that stick out to me. The only other one I can think of was Burnley on New Year's Day, like
yeah,
3 years ago.
yeah,
Just before lockdown.
Under Smith with
with the
Wesley
green
got
goblin
killed.
kit. Yeah. Yeah, and so did fucking Tom Eaton as well, didn't he, in the same game?
Yeah, same injury, same game.
God, that's mad. 3 years ago since that, and look at us now.
Ridiculous. And now how far we've come that, we went from losing Wesley, which we felt was the worst thing to ever happen to us, to this. We've still got Watkins, and he's now the best striker in Europe.
He's a generational talent. That's what he
really is. Haaland dreams about him. I've heard about it. I've genuinely heard reports.
He's got Ollie Watkins pajamas on. Not right now.
I swear on the AV on my badge. I swear by my AV on my badge. By the way, an endorsement as to why Castori is better than Kappa, by the way. Look, state of that. Absolute disgrace. Yeah. The star's gone as well. How am I supposed to tell people we won the Champions League / European Cup? They don't believe me. There's no star, they say.
Yeah.
There's no star.
We'll sing it to him constantly. But yeah, as I said earlier, the feeling at the moment's quite surreal. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't. It feels like it's bound to win, but it also feels like it won't end this great run. So I don't know. I feel calm about this running, in the sense that whatever outcome it is, I feel confident that we're going to get it right next season either way. So we'll see how it plays out in that sense.
No, the last time I felt disappointed under Unai Emery was the cup defeat. That was the last time I felt upset watching a game under Unai Emery, which is ridiculous. Yeah. That's January now.
Yeah, but at the same time, I look back at that now. Like, I'm not saying I'm glad that it happened, but it was a useful lesson for us about the squad. And you have to make mistakes to perfect your game more. And it's a shame that it was in the cup, but it's helped us in the league in a sense.
It's a switch for Coutinho as well, I think, personally.
Oh, I miss Coutinho. I was thinking this the other day.
Really do, yeah.
There was a point where I thought his career won't be revived for us. And then Emery come in and he started having good cameos and he played well against Arsenal. It's a shame that he got injured, and I hope he is back soon because it's another person that we can start or off the bench.
Yeah, it's just that was the game that I think where he changed his outlook on how he's playing, and I think Emery saw him and thought, while he's spending his time running and shooting from 30 yards out, he's clearly got a point to play in this game. So I'm excited for him to come back, and I do genuinely think there is still a future for him beyond this season for us. I don't think it ends in the summer, especially if we get Europe. He is going to be a key figure if we get Europe, because it's a quality player to have, whether he's playing in the Thursday games or whether he's playing on the Sunday games in the league.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Players like him, players like Bertrand Traoré, they're the players you actually need, because they won't mind being rotated. They're not going to be affected by that. And I think it leads me perfectly on to a bit I want to chat about, which is obviously Middlesbrough played yesterday, and I believe did you manage to catch the game? Because I unfortunately did not. And I believe Aaron Ramsey had a bit of a stormer of a game, didn't he? I mean, well, without him, they wouldn't have drawn the game, would they? So
He was more effective second half. Middlesbrough were in general more effective second half. I think. Well, not even the whole of the second half. They just hit a stride as soon as they got the equaliser. But he's really growing in that side now. He's still got to look after the ball a bit better at times, just like JJ does. He has the same sort of style of how he runs at a defence, and that causes players problems, because you don't know whether to close him down or to cut off the other space around him. But his first goal, absolutely brilliant diving header, late run to the back post and perfectly executed header. And then the assist that he got, really nice link up play on the edge of the box, and then got the pass off quickly for the goal. So yeah, he's an interesting player. He's still young enough that he's probably got another season on loan next season, unless it comes to pre-season and he really impresses Emery. This is what I'll say about every one of their academy players at the moment that's coming back off loan, because the step up is huge. We all know that. And you don't know whether players will make it or not. You just know that they've got potential. You can see what ability they've got. And even if they're struggling in the league below, if they're struggling in a lower league, they might come into a team where the coach brings out the best in them. He brings out some confidence in them, and they flourish around better players.
Yeah.
Just look at Archer. He struggled on loan at Solihull Moors, I think it was. I think they had a change of manager, and then he really didn't see much game time. You thought at that point probably he's gone from Villa in the summer, or in the summer after that, and then he gets his chance in the cup, and all of a sudden, he's someone that we don't want to let go. It's funny how it works.
Yeah.
You just have to be given that chance. You have to work for your chance, but if you're given it, you have to sort of be lucky to get that chance. And Philogene, Tim, Aaron, Archer, Kessler, they'll probably be looked at in this pre-season, and they're going to have to prove themselves that they deserve a chance in the actual season itself. So that's an interesting part of pre-season itself for me.
It's really interesting, I think, because he's been training with the first team, I think, since he came back. I've seen a lot anyway. He's had a lot of pictures anyway of first team training. He's usually in the most weeks, which I think is really interesting, because it clearly means that he's not come back from injury and then not been loaned out and just sort of left to train with the reserves. He's been clearly monitored as someone that has clearly got the ability to have potential in the future, and one that they're probably thinking, well, he's worth having around. It's good to be able to monitor and track him, and it means that they can start to mold him without having to put him in the games to mold him. And I find that quite invaluable for a stage where he's not missing out on having the game time, because he's at an age where he doesn't need it quite as much.
Yeah.
Of course, I know he'd rather be playing. I think we'd all rather him be playing, but it's so much better than him being on loan at a club that didn't really want him and being forced into the bench and not playing anything and not being molded by an elite level manager, which I think everyone might finally be able to admit that Unai Emery is an elite level manager. I think it's time that we sort of evaluate these loans rather than going, he's going to make us a profit if we sell him now. He's not. Just give him the summer, because the transfer window doesn't open in June and shut in July. It's a long window, and it gives them the chance, especially on this USA tour, which obviously we haven't really got into too much about, but it's just it's a tournament between Premier League clubs in the United States, and then too spectacular. But it'll be interesting to see. I think those are the games where you'll get to see the likes of Archer, of Tim play and sort of develop and see how they fit into an Unai Emery system.
Yeah.
Because I think whilst it would be great if they all did, I think it's clear to see that not every single one of these players is going to come back off loan and play for us next season. Yeah. Some may go out on loan, some may leave, some may stay. And I'm quite looking forward to finding that out, because I don't like this at the moment, sitting looking, going, Cameron Archer's doing well, but what happens with him? I don't like not knowing. You want to know, and I think we will know this summer. I think Cameron Archer's either going to be in the squads with us next season, or he won't be an Aston Villa player next season. I think that's the two eventualities. I don't think he goes out on loan again.
I can't see another loan, because if, I don't know what his contract situation is, but you sell when the stocks are high if you aren't going to have him around your team.
Yeah.
Or if you don't see him in the plans. And that's probably the biggest interest for me this summer, because he's at that point where it's go or bust, and we'll see. Thinking about Philogene, I invested my stocks in him in that video a couple of weeks ago or so, and I think started to get recognition again in the past couple of weeks at Cardiff. He's starting to shine in an attacking sense, not just defensively now in that rigid system. He is the sort of player that we lack, the type of player, but obviously it's a different quality level that he's playing at. So that's going to be something that I've really got my eyes on in the summer, because we only have Bailey and Traore as width, and for all we know, one of them or both of them could be courted in the summer. You know how it works. So you don't know whether we want to bring in one winger or two, or whether if Philogene can make this step up and impress, that's a really safe option to have around, because you don't have to put a significant outlay of money on him. So there's so many variables to look at when it comes to things like this that, it does make it interesting. But we've got to get recruitment really right this summer, whether we're in Europe or not.
Yeah, the last little bit before we finish off this week is it's not a reliable source. I'll put it out there now. It is a source by Footy Insider, which James off camera probably spit at the idea of me mentioning them on the podcast, but I've got to mention it because I like the conversation around it. I don't think it's a link that's actually going to happen. I don't see it happening, but I like the hypotheticals because I find them interesting, because it's causing a lot of debate. I've seen some people go, "You're mental if you don't want him." I've seen some people going, "You're mental if you want him." And it's Calvin Phillips, as apparently is an option and is likely to make a move over to Aston Villa in the summer. And quoted by Footy Insider, I will keep saying this, as it would break our transfer fee. Now, I'll go out there on a limb and say I would not want this transfer to happen, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts first, because you might persuade me otherwise. Because again, I'll message you at halftime and games, and I'll go from thinking that Leon Bailey's terrible to he's a good footballer with the way you talk to me. So you could change my mind on this, but I'm against it personally.
It's not a simple answer, I don't think, because it depends on a lot of things.
Convince me.
If it's financially right, I mean, I know it's not our money that we have to worry about, but if we're spending a lot of money to bring him in to just be a rotation option, it takes it away from other players that you bring in. But as a player, I really like him. It's top quality. That you don't go in for players that aren't good enough to come in when they're needed. Simple as that. And it's not just defensively, on the ball as well. You don't get Guardiola coming to court you into the team without being really good on the ball. And he could play that Kamara role, or he can play half of the Dougie role. Dougie has a bit more of an expansive passing range and flair about him, but he'd make us a bit more flexible in different games. We could put a more attacking forward line out if we had Kamara and Phillips sitting, or if one of them are injured, he can step in. Sort of how it works for me. And there's been a lot of talk on Twitter around we don't need him when we've got Tim coming back. You know me, I'm a massive fan of Tim, but you can't put all of your hopes on that at the same time. Again, a lot of it can be to do with timing. As you said, the summer's a long time. The window's open for 3 months. You do like to get your business done early, but you have got time to assess things. So, and I mean, the scouts will be assessing him while he's out on loan at QPR, and then you come into training and you work your plans around what you've got then, and then obviously you have your pre-season tournaments and friendlies and stuff, and that can be a time where you go, okay, maybe we do need this sort of player. You might have missed out on them then, but we won't have just one target. But in general, if we could bring in Calvin Phillips and it works out suitably, I'd be really happy with it, because he can play an intense game, or he can play a pragmatic game. He's played intense under Bielsa, and he's played pragmatic for Southgate, and he excels in both. So, yeah, I like him as a player, but it just has to be right at the time if we do want him.
Yeah, I put aside the player because I think there's no doubt in the quality that he has. I think, like you're saying, if a player gets bought by Man City, especially by Pep, they're no schmuck. And it's clear to see that even while the signings he always don't always work, they're not bad players, or they eventually work in different ways. My only issue is also the bill of health. I don't think he's had a very good run of fitness before he left Leeds either in the league. I think he's not played a full season since being promoted. He's had at least one small to medium-sized injury every season. And obviously, since joining City, he's played, I think, less than 300 minutes of football, definitely in the Premier League anyway. I actually think he's played more for England of recent than he has Man City, which obviously isn't just saying that it's all down to his fitness, but it is a worry for me because I don't really want to see us going out and spending big on a player that isn't going to. I don't think right now I'd want to drop out Kamara or Louise for him anyway. I think, but that may be just because of recency form bias, and I think they're different players anyway. But I don't think that's our area that we need to improve personally. I'll be shocked if the reason why I really don't believe is because I don't think that any person in our scouting team is looking at our team and going, yeah, we need Calvin Phillips in this team. I don't think that's our gap. I really don't. I think
the
second choice keeper is the first gap.
Well, yeah. the thing for me is obviously you take Kamara and Louise out, you have to put McGinn centrally, but you lose out him further forward then. So we all know that we're lacking in depth in that central area because, you know, you can put Dendoncker in there or Chambers, but neither of them do the whole job that Kamara or Louise do.
No.
So it is an issue depth-wise. And then if you want to bring depth in, we've all said this, you want to bring in quality depth.
Yeah.
So and that does cost money, unless you use your scouting networks, obviously, and you can find someone that's going to grow, but is still first-team quality.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one. I think that we do need to address that area still. I mean, you know me and my love for Ugarte, and you love him too. That's the
dream, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, you want to have the quality as well as just having numbers around the squad. So that's why I'm on the side of if Phillips was available and we got him for the right price, like it's a no-brainer for me because it's not a step down in quality per se. Then.
Yeah, I think you've convinced me. I'm to a maybe now. You've taken me away from a no to a maybe. Yeah, it's a lot of considerables. I know it's not up to us anyway, and 99% likely it's just not true anyway. So it's not one I'm really worried about. I just find it interesting because these players pop up, and especially big name players like that, you kind of want to chat about them, just because it's an interesting debate, and it's great to see that we're getting linked with players of that quality. Because not that we weren't getting links with him before, because of course we were. I distinctly remember our links to him, but it's an interesting one anyway, and it's one I'm happy to concede that it's probably a smart move. Just if like I say, if all the variables come into play, and that's the beauty of football is we've just got to wait and see how it goes. But I'm equally buzzing if we sign a couple of random players that I've never heard of because I've got that much belief in it. I was saying before that. You know, I genuinely think if he gave me a call and gave me 6 months, I'd probably be able to put in a good show in the Premier League because Unai Emery's that good. Genuinely think of it. He's that good. I could probably play centre-back.
I think it is one of those where, I mean, the transfer window is going to be really exciting. As much as the transfer merry-go-round is silly and stressful and stupid with all the in the nose that come out, and my sister's brother works at the Belfry and has seen Harry Maguire scratching his arse at the Nightfall. You know what I mean? Like it's all stupid, but at the same time, it's exciting. Yeah. And I think it will be an interesting one this summer because I think we could see a big name or two, as well as a younger player or one that we've not heard of, in the sense that will suit this team and one that Emery wants. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it, but more importantly, I'm looking forward to Saturday. I just can't wait. I want to hear the little
score
theme
predictions.
tune. It's gonna 3-0 Villa.
Oh God! I tell you what, I'm going to bender. I think. I'm going to call it a close. So I'm going to say 1-1. I want us to win, but as I said, I'd take a point. It's going to be a scrappy game. It's going to be an interesting game. Atmosphere is going to play a big part. I think I'm going to go with 1-1. We concede first and we equalise in the second half.
Well, we're going to score. I think that's the basis. We always score. So I think Newcastle accept that. But yeah, I don't know. I've got a feeling. I've got a feeling that we're all buying into this, into the idea and the acceptable idea that it's going to be a physical battle. But I just think Emery's got some kind of he's going to be like, I've just outwitted them. I've just completely changed the scales. I've gone 5 at the back. and I've done them, and it's going to go wild, and we're going to go, what have we just watched? So I think there's a little something about this game where it's going to be the one where, because everyone's so worried about what the media is saying about us or not saying about us and how we're getting left out of certain conversations. I think it's the game where everyone goes,
oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ, sit in.
Well, if we tactically outwit Howe and we win 3-0, I'm creating the GTA dog meme and I'm putting Eddie Howe's face on the dog and Emery holding it.
And I'll put it up now. I'll go against what I told you, and I will be cracking open a couple of beers, going away from my niece rule, and I'll go straight ahead. It'll have been 4 days since I've said I'm stopping, and that's it. There you go. I'm not teetotal, just waiting for the holiday. But no, I'll go against that if we genuinely hold them to a clean sheet and a comfortable win. I love it. All I want to know is we're 2-0 up. We're passing it around. The Olays are ringing out. Every week we follow is banging around the ground and just sat there, and all you can hear. I want Newcastle to boo their team off. I want it to be that bad. I want them to boo and be like, shambles.
I tell you what, if this made it to Newcastle Twitter and they won 2-0, this would be like, yeah, I'd just probably close Twitter for a couple of days.
Yeah,
but
well,
it's football, isn't it? We all want
publicity is good publicity, James. What do I tell you?
Yeah, true. It's one of those, isn't it? I don't, to be fair, I don't care. Like if someone finds an old tweet of mine where I've got something horrendously wrong, who cares?
I'd rather back the team would be horrendously wrong than go, we're going to lose 2-0 and be right.
Exactly.
Much rather that. And at the end of the day, if you are a Newcastle fan and you've sat through 45 minutes of me and James talking about Aston Villa to hear me say this, I don't like your club. There you go.
There you go.
You've waited 45 minutes for that. I hope you're happy.
Yeah.
And on that note, we will end the podcast. For all of you lovely Villa fans and Newcastle fans watching because you're obsessed with us. Beautiful. All right. So obviously, if you're new here, Newcastle, Villa, anyone, hit the subscribe button, accept blues, we won't accept you. Hit like, hit the bell button, the notifications button, as I like to call it. And yeah, we'll be back next week for the post-match reaction. Win, lose, or draw. We'll still be here. Yeah. And keep an eye out on the channel as well, because obviously the video we've done with John McKenzie will be coming out by the end of the week. And so make sure you feast your eyes on that before the Newcastle game, because he has a lot to say about that as well. And yeah, as always, we'll pop all the links down below. And until next time, up the Villa.
Up the Villa.